Alright, so the big question on these problems is it convergent or divergent? It's like to be or not to be. To be convergent or not to be convergent? That is the question. Once we do determine that, again, if it's convergent, we can use this formula. And this formula says the sum. Now, this is an infinity symbol, if you didn't know that. I'm sure you did, but if you didn't, it's an infinity symbol. So it's supposed to represent you taking a lot of terms, right? A lot of them. As high a number as you can think of, that's the number they want. All right, and it says equals, this is always the first term we're working with, and then this is the common ratio. All right, so we're going to look at the first one, which is 1 plus a fourth plus a 16th plus a 64th plus dot 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 dot. All right, so what are we going to do? Alright, so first thing we're going to do is, and there's a rule over here that says the absolute value of r is less than 1. Okay, that's a little thing extra that you need to know. And again, we'll explain that in a second. Alright, so we're going to look at this thing and we're going to say, alright, so what's happening from one term to the next? Remember, if you don't know what to do, you take this number, the second number, and divide it by the first number. Or the third number divided by the second number, so on and so forth. If I do 1/4 divided by 1, I get 1/4. 1/4. Okay, so that's r. That meets our condition. 1/4 is less than 1. So therefore, I can use this formula. And again, r needs to be a number that's making these actual numbers tinier and tinier and tinier. Not negative or positive, but tinier numbers, like the actual numbers that these come out. These fractions are getting smaller. The numbers on the bottom are getting bigger, but your knowledge of fractions should tell you that these are getting smaller and smaller. This says 1 out of 4 pieces. This is 1 out of 16 pieces of pizza. 1 out of 64 pieces of pizza. Your sliver's getting it's getting tiny. Your piece is getting tinier and tinier and tinier. So this is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So now we're going to follow the formula, which says take the first term, which is 1, and divide it by 1 minus 1/4. So 1 over 1 minus a fourth is 3/4. Now, if you know what to do here, okay, all you have to do is multiply 1 minus 3 divided by 4. You can do it in the calculator if you want, but it's the same as taking 1 and multiplying it by its flip over, its reciprocal. So you're going to get 4/3. Okay, so that's about 1.3, somewhere in there. Now, if you wanted to do this, let's do it just to kind of prove our point. Here's 1. Here's, okay, so here's 1, the first one. Here's 0.25. Here's what is that, 1.2, is that right? 1/16? No, that's 1/8. Gotta go smaller than that. Well, anyway, if we were to start adding up these decimals, we're not going to get much past 1.3. Because these are going to start getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Alright, so the idea on that was a poor example here, but the idea is if you were sat there and added and added and kept on going and kept on going and kept on going and kept on going, you would see that the sum doesn't get very big because the numbers that you're adding are getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller in actual size. Alright, so let's try another one.